Two questions, and one's very quick. Given, I don't call DC the swamp anymore. I call it the sewer because there's no more life in the swamp.
Yeah.
Will you commit to not picking a sewer rat as your vice president?
Yes, actually. Thank you. And not only not as my vice president, but not as my national security advisor, not as my secretary of state, not as my head of FBI, not as ambassador to the UN. First of all, I don't think we should be funding the UN.
What about the FBI?
We shouldn't fund any institution hostile to the WHO, to the UN. We should not be using our taxpayer money to fund institutions that are hostile to our own sovereignty. I'm sorry, that ends on my watch. And I think this is a big difference right now. I mean, look, I can't speak for... I think there's two America First candidates in this race. It's Donald Trump and myself. And I think those are the two acceptable choices, minimally acceptable choices for this country. But I'm going to be taking our agenda to the next level, because one of the ways that you frustrate your own agenda is if you hire people who are hostile to your own agenda. So the John Boltons and the Nikki Haley's of the world, they're going to be coming nowhere near my administration. And I believe in learning from the past. But I think I'm the only person, apparently, in this race who could say that none of those people is going to be coming anywhere near my administration this time around either. You're going to ask me point blank, is Nikki Haley or John Bolton or anybody else going to be my vice president? My answer is absolutely not. It's going to be an America First patriot who shares our commitment to shut down and cut through that federal bureaucracy. What does America First mean? It means two things. The people we elect to run the government ought to be the ones who run the government, and they owe a duty, their sole moral duty, to the citizens of this nation, not another one. 40,000 troops sitting in places like Germany. Why? They don't even spend 2% of their own GDP on military expenditures, which is the NATO minimum requirement. We're the fools sitting here accepting that. I'm going to move our troops to protect not somebody else's border halfway around the world. Don't send $200 billion of our taxpayer money to Ukraine so some kleptocrat can buy a bigger house. That's what's going on today. And most of the Republican Party actually supports it. They're in on the grift. I'm going to use our own military to protect our own borders in this country. Our national defense spending should go towards defending our own homeland, not the sewer rats that are actually sucking the lifeblood out of our system. I like that expression. I'm going to be taking that with me. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. Question number two. We've only been a debt-free country once, and it was done illegally under Andrew Jackson. How do you solve it?
So I think some small amount of national debt's acceptable. Problem is, our national debt's out of control. Right? If the interest payments on our national debt become the largest line item in our federal budget, then we're toast. Right? Then you're in quicksand. And we're about 5 years from that happening. If that happens, we don't have a country left. That's what gives me my sense of urgency. We don't have the luxury of time. People ask me, oh, if you don't win this time, will you run in 2028? I mean, that works for me. I don't have to run at all. Our family, thankfully, this country has blessed us with a life that my parents wouldn't have imagined when they came to this country, that I wouldn't have imagined when I was growing up in Evendale, Ohio, when my dad was facing down layoffs at the GE plant. This country has done enough for us, but for this country, I don't think we have that kind of time. So how do we fight our national debt? It's going to take somebody who understands exactly how to do it without cutting Social Security, which is what the rest of the Republican Party wants to do. Fork over more money to Ukraine while cutting Social Security here. That's what I call America Last. Cut veterans' benefits while you're at it. They'll say, no, not on my watch. Here's how we fix it. Get the oil and natural gas out from underneath our ground. Sell it. Use that to buy down about $8 trillion of our national debt. Avoid the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan or the future versions. Those two wars added $7 trillion to our national debt. The Taliban is still in charge 20 years later, for God's sake. And Iraq is a more broken country than when we showed up. Don't make those same mistakes. And then, yes, fire 75% of the federal bureaucracy. I will start that on my day one in office. Our national debt's then out of control. And we've done it even without touching Social Security or Medicare. By the way, most people ask the question, how do you avoid cuts in Social Security? I'll ask a different question, just as a businessman here. What if I told you there was a way to increase Social Security benefits? Many people collecting Social Security can't even make their ends meet because the value has been inflated away relative to what they paid in. What if I told you I can increase Social Security benefits without adding a dime to our national debt? Here's how. 40 years ago, if the amount in the Social Security surplus had been invested in just a diversified portfolio of stocks and bonds and treasuries, just like your financial advisor would tell you to, Today, the average person collecting $1,800 per month in Social Security benefits would be collecting close to $18,000 per person per month. Think about that in your mailbox. It's government malpractice of the highest order. Well, we can change it for the future. We won't touch Social Security or Medicare benefits for the people who are already getting them, and for the next generation, by the time they are collecting it, it will be that $18,000 number without adding a dime to our national debt. So I think it's time we have a CEO in the White House who can't be duped. That's what it's going to take to revive this country. But look, I think if we don't get this right now, I think the flip side of that is we're in a national debt quicksand, and I don't think we're going to have a country left. And I think that's the choice we face. You have a book for me?
Would you be willing to sign it after you're done here?
Which book is it? Yeah, of
The
course.
Constitution and other founding American documents?
It'd be my honor to.
Thank
It'd be my
you.
honor to. Thank you. Well, I think they're giving me we're going to Black Hawk County. We're doing a